Hello, everyone. Today, I want to talk to you about intellectual courage, what it means to be intellectually courageous, and how that is a mindset that comes out of philosophy, but also through our attitudes and our behaviors, specifically as academics and as educated people. Intellectual courage sounds like, can you explain that to me again? I've changed my mind. I never thought of it that way. Why do I think the way I think? What if I'm wrong? It looks like 6 different types of behaviors or 6 different methods. The first of these is lateral thinking. Lateral thinking goes by many different names, sometimes divergent thinking or organic thinking. And what it means is that we explore many solutions through nonlinear methods. So it's very organic, it's very dynamic, and it's integrated. Another way to say this is that instead of thinking about things in sequence or in cause and effect, we now think of things in a web or an integrated way. Another way to think about this is through cross-pollinating. So instead of looking for a single solution out of a single discipline, cross-pollinating says we integrate or we mix disciplines in order to come up with more robust or comprehensive solutions. So for instance, instead of looking for 2 + 2 = 4, which is a very linear way of looking at things and comes with a single solution, we would look at taking math or science and blending it with literature, philosophy, or the arts. And the idea is that when we blend disciplines, we get new ways of thinking about the world. We have different brainstorming, we have different solutions, and those solutions are different than the thinking we use to get into the problem in the first place. The next method is critical reasoning. And this is the willingness to discard or dispute orthodoxies and dogma. So oftentimes in our world, we encounter truths or things that people say are truth, and we just accept them without questioning. Typically, we do so because a person of authority has told us this, or because it's something we've always done. But if you think about that, that's actually pretty logically fallacious. Or in other words, it's bad reasoning, it's bad thinking. Just because someone said something, or just because we've always done things, doesn't mean it's the right answer. In fact, oftentimes it's not. So to be a critical reasoner or to be a critical thinker, we must question those dogmas or those things that are just passed down to us. We must analyze them, and then we must dissect them and examine them. So we take it apart. Think about how we got to where we got to, why we have these answers that we have, and then examine, are they valid? Are they reliable? Are they truthful? The next thing is pluralism. And this is often very difficult to understand. It's this idea that we're so flexible that we're able to balance a number of different worldviews or perspectives. And many of those perspectives might come from contradictory or different sources, including other people. One way to think about this is that if you have a right answer that's true for you, we often then think the other answers out there for other people are false. But pluralism says you could have a true answer that's true for you, and there might be true answers for others that's true within their culture or in their histories or in their experiences. And it's okay to have many of these balanced together. The next practice is devil's advocate. And this is the ability to argue against one's own point of view. This allows us to test the strength, the validity, and the reliability of an argument. So if you make a claim, a proposition, or an assertion, and you believe this is true, the best thing you can then do is challenge that by questioning it and taking the opposing point of view. Can you take a point of view that argues against that? Can you put yourself in those shoes, put yourself in that place, and think through that? The next is to be observant. A lot of times we become caught up in the words themselves or the speaker or the arguer. But if we stop to listen and think about what is being said versus what's not being said, and what has been intentionally omitted and what has been included, that helps us understand the argument in a fuller way. That also leads us to a better sense of what is true. Things of omission help remove parts of a truth. Most truths are very complicated, have a lot of different moving parts, have different points of view. There's far more gray than black and white thinking. And the last and probably the most important part of being intellectually courageous is truth seeking. The relentless quest for the truth is truly what is important to an academic or an educated person. That is what an educated person is looking for. They're looking for the truth. Simply thinking something does not make it necessarily real, or does not necessarily make it correspond to reality. We can have many different beliefs and ideas about the world that don't reflect in reality. And oftentimes we can trick ourselves into believing those are true. And part of the issue comes down to the philosophical debate between objectivity and subjectivity. Objectivity says that something is true independent of perception or an observer. Subjectivity is contingent on an observer and that observer's bias and opinions. So a subject or a person may see something in the world, and because of interpretation and inference, that reality changes in that person's mind. Objectivity states that independent of the observers, there are truths that exist. Now, there is no simple solution to this, and there has been an ongoing debate since antiquity whether or not things are objective or subjective, if there is an objective world, or if everything is subjective. These are all questions that are part of truth seeking. But like most things in academics and education, it's truly less about the product and far more about the process. Seeking the truth itself is the noble pursuit. Seeking the truth itself is being intellectually courageous. Finding it is actually inconsequential. Finding it is not necessarily important. And really, it's probably impossible to find a true objective truth. Our subjectivity tends to cloud that. So instead, it's more about getting close to it. It's sort of like the idea of perfection. It's not about being perfect that's important. It's striving towards perfection that makes people excellent. Thank you, everyone, for taking a moment to listen to me talk about intellectual bravery, intellectual courage. I hope you carry this on forward into your academic careers and your education. And as always, feel free to ask questions, post comments in the video, or reach out to me by email. Thank you again.